Call me what you wanna, I'll be what you wanna. I've been here 1,000 times. Hey, falling for another, I don't even bother. I could do it all my life. So tell me if you wanna, cause I got this feeling. I wanna hear you say it, cause I can't believe it. With every touch of you, it's like I started dreaming. Guess heaven's not that far away.
Here we go. It's always weird and awkward. All right, guys, welcome to the channel. So we're here to talk about our HPDE event. So I actually signed up Jon for his very first track day. He never had track day experience ever. Usually you're more into like detailing and, you know, the performance and stuff, but not really track driving.
So I'm primarily, I like cars, but I'm more of I like to experience different cars. I like to learn about common issues, the cost of ownership, the community, and then when I'm modifying it, aesthetics takes priority. I like to make cars look different. Performance has always been kind of secondary for me. So whenever I get a car, you know, I will focus more on, you know, changing the look of the car to make it something unique. Rather than put money into the car to make it faster or something like that. Just because I'm not really doing, you know, spirited driving through back roads, anything like that a ton. I'm primarily just someone that likes to cruise and go to Cars and Coffee. That's kind of more my speed. But ever since Bo started doing these HPDE events, he really liked it and enjoyed it and wanted me to kind of experience it for myself to see if it's something that, you know, I would potentially like, you know, and you know, possibly get into.
So when you first arrived, like, because we got there like Friday night to check out the track. So what were your thoughts? I mean, kind of just getting a glimpse of the track and everything.
So it was really cool yeah, you know, so Bo met up with our friends Aaron and his dad. They headed to New Jersey earlier in the day, and then I had to wait for my wife to get off. And then as soon as she got off, we drove the Fit there and we met them in New Jersey. And just based off timing, we ended up meeting up with them at the track just so we could kind of take a look at it. And see what the track looked like and see how everything is set up. I thought the atmosphere was really cool. I mean, you have people there with, you know, these trailers that are definitely designed, you know, for track use. And basically the difference between maybe a standard trailer and one that would be for track use, you know, these people have like racks that are on the trailer that they can, you know, load an extra set of tires or wheels and tires so they can swap them out. And it's just really cool kind of seeing people, you know, with that setup, people with enclosed trailers, people with campers. I mean, it's definitely legitimate. So being around that type of atmosphere was definitely pretty cool. It was definitely different than what I was used to, you know, seeing. You know, you don't see that type of thing obviously going to Cars and Coffee, things of that nature. You know, you go to car shows and stuff, it's a little bit different. You have people that, you know, are, you know, motorsports enthusiasts. They like performance and they like to, you know, see what the car is capable of, you know, on the track. So nice. It was definitely really cool to see. I've never seen anything like that before.
So the next morning we got up pretty early, right? We got up like 5:30, got gas. So when the day started with the drivers meeting, like what was going through your mind when they were kind of like at any point did you start getting nervous at all leading up to the first session?
So I wasn't like super nervous. I will say that, you know, when you go to the track, you'll see all kinds of cars. I mean, you'll see, you know, Miatas, lots of Miatas. You'll see some Hondas, you'll see R8s, you'll see Aston Martins. I think there was a Porsche, like Taycan there, or a Panamera. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff on the track, right? And, you know, I knew that I was going to be in this Honda Fit that, you know, makes maybe 100 horsepower, but it is manual. But Bo has made some modifications to the car to make it kind of more
reliable.
Well, reliable and more kind of modifications geared towards you know, track use, right? So
beat up.
yeah, so the brakes were new, tires were new, you know, front strut tower, coilover suspension. You know, he made those changes just to kind of help with the handling on the track. So I guess, I mean, if there was anything that I was nervous about, it was, you know, getting on the track that I wasn't familiar with, and you know, making sure that I didn't you know, hurt myself or hurt other drivers, or also hold them up, you know, like, so I don't know, there's a lot that goes through your mind. It's a lot to take in, you know, for your first time being on the track.
Oh yeah, yep, agreed. So let's talk about, I'll talk about my car. My car did pretty well. First 2 sessions were good. When it came to session 3 and 4, I started having brake judder, where as I'm braking hard, it's like, and I asked several people about it, and they're like, either warp rotors, but I know the pads and rotors I got, they're fresh, so I may have not bedded them correctly. So they told me how to correctly bed them, so I'm going to do that at some point, but they just need to get really heated up and get even distribution.
So like hard braking, like really hard braking, maybe driving, you know, 50, 60 miles an hour and slamming on the brakes.
This is what he said. He said, go out, do a 60 to 15 hard slam. Right after that, go back up, build a 70, 15 hard stop, and then after that, do an 80 to 15 hard stop. And at that point, you should get a nice even distribution, and then when it cools off, it's a nice even.
Yeah, so when you hit the brakes, it's not shaking. That makes sense.
Yep.
Because when your rotors warp just from regular use, say it's not just track use, but you know, when your rotors are getting old and stuff, it's uneven, and then, you know, when you start hitting the brakes, it starts shaking. So that makes sense.
Yep.
So.
And my instructor assured me, he's like, it's okay, it's normal as long as you can stop. And I was like, well, so my session 3, I pulled off after lap 5.
Yeah.
Just to gather myself and be prepared for it for the next time, and I knew to expect this, so I was just going with it, and trusting the car and trusting the instructor, you know, was important.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your very first session that you went on. So you had your instructor, his name was Takis.
Yep. Yeah, so what was really cool about, you know, once Bo registered me, you know, I started getting like emails from
their communication is really good.
Yeah, their communication is really good, and NASA, you know, they sent out you know, kind of like a letter, you know, in the mail, just kind of confirming everything and letting you know what you can do to prepare for it. Also, the instructor will reach out to you prior to the event and kind of give you a little background on them. They want to also kind of you know, get a little more information from you so they can understand what type of driving experience you have. You know, I made it very clear to my instructor that I didn't have any prior, you know, track, you know, driving experience. This would be my very first one. I'm more of a cars and coffee type guy. My instructor was actually like a 7-time, you know, World Rally champion or something. He had 30 years of racing experience under his belt, so he was a very well seasoned, you know, instructor or driver, we'll say. That being said, you know, I did have some challenges. I think having somebody that was so well seasoned on the track, being my instructor, being somebody that was completely new, I think that there was definitely some challenges that we faced, you know, communication barriers and things of that nature. And honestly, I was scheduled to do 4 sessions, you know, and I did I don't know if I'm going too far into this because you only asked about the first first sesh. Okay. So, you know, I was scheduled to do 4 sessions, and the first session, you know, is primarily about learning, you know, the basics. You know, that was pretty much when I sent the, you know, email response back to my instructor. You know, one of the things that he asked me is, you know, what is my takeaway? What do I want to learn from this experience? And you know, I said I pretty much just want to learn the basics. You know, I just want to understand the basics of it, and just kind of just, you know, start learning about the track sport and understanding it better. But I think that with the first session, it's not necessarily about, trying to see how fast you can go around the track. It's familiarizing yourself with the line. There's no, physical line, but, there's an invisible line, and understanding, how to kind of carry your speed, through the apexes and everything like that. So you're not really going super aggressive, the first session. It's just familiarizing yourself kind of with, where the flaggers are located, and just kind of the basic etiquettes of track driving. So the first session was pretty, straightforward, and it was more or less about just getting familiar with your surroundings and that.
Yeah. Yep. I would say first round, just get comfortable, learn the line, feel how the car is responding to you, and then be completely aware. Flagging stations, cars around you, focus on that. And it's like everything else, baby steps.
Yeah.
Because if you try to focus on too many things at once, that's when you start making mistakes.
Yeah.
But so the first session went pretty good.
I thought that the first session went well, and the way that this was set up is, you have about, depending on what group you were in, we were in a group 1, which is kind of like your, I guess, entry level, people that are just learning, the sport and trying to understand it. And then you have groups that are more advanced, like 2 and 3, where they don't, not all of them, I don't think they have instructors or anything at all. I think it was just group 1. So the second session, so to go back to it, like basically there was 20 minutes of class. You would kind of you had an instructor or a teacher kind of go over certain things. Yeah, he was a great teacher, but what we would do is yeah, I mean, there are things that are helpful that you may not think of, but basically you would do about 20 minutes worth of class time, and then you would have a scheduled, session, right? And the sessions are about 20 minutes as well. So pretty much, you get in touch with your instructor, and normally they'll communicate with you and just say, okay, hey, come get me, 10 minutes before, your session starts, and we'll go ahead and line up at the grid. For those who aren't familiar with track driving, the grid is pretty much where everyone lines up and they get ready to get onto the track when the other group comes in. So basically, when the second, I did my class and then went out, grabbed my instructor, and we went out for the second session. And this time I was trying to drive a little more, fast, I guess you could say, because after the first session I had, familiarized myself with the track and all the etiquettes, and knew where the flaggers were, and just to be mindful of those things. So the second time around I was able to just kind of maybe focus on driving and trying to see, how well I could drive with the car, seeing how the car would handle. And the car actually handled great. What I learned, or my takeaway, was that it's not really all about power, especially when you're at the track, and especially when you're learning. You don't want something super crazy. But the Fit was actually a great car to learn on, because it's just not super fast. I mean, you can punch it, you can throw it into kind of a lower gear and give it wide open throttle, and you're not, going to lose control or something. It's front wheel drive.
The question is, did you have fun in that car?
Oh yeah, it was tons of fun. I mean, it handled great. And the second session was definitely better. I think that I definitely improved from the first one. But then again, the first one I wasn't necessarily trying to drive fast. It was kind of a different purpose. So the second session was great. Like I said, I think my instructor, there was definitely some challenges that we were having as far as just communication styles. There's definitely different ways to communicate with people, and I think that I don't know if my instructor was just, I don't know if he was afraid or what, because at the end of the day, he doesn't know me and my driving style or anything like that. And he has 30 years under his belt, and he is done competitive driving, whereas for me, I'm just trying to learn the basics. So
I'll make sure I'm gonna link the video to John's full session so you can see what talk is and just get a feel for how his second session went with. And you know, the styling is very different from if you watch other instruction videos. I mean, it's not what I'm used to typically, but everyone has different styles of teaching, and also people are receptive to different styles of learning.
Yeah.
And you know, for someone new, that kind of approach is a little crazy. But what is good to know that I found out is you can request to change your instructor if you just don't feel comfortable at all. And there's no offense taken, and they'll take care of you, but you have to say something. And you know, at first I was a little nervous. I even offered John to use my instructor for my third session, but it was just so much, and there's just so much going on, like you can't even think straight. But you know, Joe and Susan, the whole organization, they care. They truly care, and you know, they listen to us, and we were just honest, and you know, and we're grateful for that. And so so you know,
so to piggyback off what Bo was saying, after the second session, I was feeling a bit overwhelmed because of the way that I guess there was just communication barriers. I mean, I was already kind of feeling under the weather due to allergies. You know, I had the head sock on over, you know, my head, and then the helmet on that. And then not only that, my instructor was, you know, from Greece, and you know, English was not his, you know, his primary, you know, language. Or his first language, I guess you could say. So there was all of those things together, I think was just kind of very challenging to kind of focus, right? Because you're thinking about all these things and where you're supposed to brake, where you're supposed to turn, you know, being mindful of the drivers around you, getting feedback from your instructor, and then there's that language barrier where you're not hearing them. So like all of those things together just made the second session very challenging, and I got a bit overwhelmed. So I ended up leaving after, not right after the second session, because after the second session there was a third class, and I did want to learn as much as possible. So I
shouting out the answers for a flag.
Well, so I did go to the third class, and then right after that, you know, I kind of just, you know, wanted to go home and you know, just kind of call it quits for the day. I think just everything was just very,
I was very sad,
overwhelming. And Bo, you know, he did try to get me to stay and offered, you know, to have his
Dylan.
Yeah, to have his instructor maybe swap it. But you know, for me, I just more or less didn't want to maybe hurt my instructor's feelings or, you know, something like that. And I was just like, you know, I'll just go home and, you know, everything will be okay. And then Bo had actually brought it up to Joe and Susan, and they were very receptive to it, and they definitely cared. They listened, and they actually, you know, took care of the situation. They offered me, you know, a session.
They're gonna take,
you know,
they took take care of us.
Yeah, so they took very good care, and I think as an organization, NASA was very professional. They were very organized. They communicated very well, and I think that, you know, looking back now, maybe I should have brought it, you know, to their attention myself. But at the same time, I think the combination of me being, you know, slightly under the weather, and just not wanting to hurt my instructor's feelings, I just said, you know, I'm just gonna go and call it quits. But I tell you what, aside from that, I had such a good time, because not only are you know, you're seeing these people, meeting these people that are, you know, hardcore into the sport, if you want to call it is it a sport? Would you consider it motorsport? People that are into this motorsport, you know, everyone's super friendly. It's the atmosphere that you're in. You're also hanging out, you know, with us. We were there with friends. So, you know, kind of in between classes, in between sessions, you can kind of bounce feedback off each other and, you know, talk about things that you enjoyed, thought about, you know, discuss things that maybe you could do better. You know, there's all kinds of different things that you know, just make it really enjoyable. Overall, it was a very fun experience. I had, you know, overall a great time at the event, and I plan to definitely do one in the near future, maybe in May. So in like another couple months or so, I plan on doing another one. And
I'm excited, man.
Yeah,
that's so excited. Now we're talking about like what we want to do setup wise next. Do we want to switch anything out at all so he can take this out again But I'm excited. I'm glad I treated you well because this car is such a cool car to just drive, and I can't wait till I get to take it out eventually. But right now, this has been treating me well, and I'm just gonna keep using it and just get comfortable with this while this you can actually use this But yeah, awesome, man. Do you have any input for someone who hasn't done this before? What would be something that you would suggest to them if they're thinking about getting into it? Like, what do you?
So I would say this, as I mentioned before earlier in the video, my speed has always been cars and coffee. It's modifying cars, making them look better, and just kind of cruising. I'm not really one to do spirited driving, but HPDE is not necessarily about just racing in general. It's performance driver education, right? Or high performance driver education. So it's just driving in general. I mean, it changes your perspective on even everyday driving, right? Instead of looking at the things, in front of you, look ahead in the horizon, right? Because if you're looking ahead and, something happens, you have more time to react to it, rather than, have it be too late when it's right in front of you. So, things like that are things that you learn during the HPDE experience. I would say make sure that you're well rested. As I mentioned, I was a bit under the weather just because of allergies, and then I was taking medication, so maybe it wasn't the best idea to, kind of combine those things. So just make sure you're well rested. And then I will say that, as far as your instructor, if for whatever reason you don't feel like,
receptive,
if you're not very receptive to their, kind of training style, I guess you could say.
Hard to understand.
So if for whatever reason you're not happy with your instructor, for whatever reason that may be, don't be afraid to go to, Joe or Suzanne with NASA. And, I'm sure that, I believe it's a common thing, more than you may think. I know it was a surprise for me. I didn't want to be,
me too.
That confrontational guy and create problems. But, I think that if for whatever reason, like I said, you're not happy with your instructor, bring it to their attention. They'll ensure that they get you someone else that, may have a training style that you may be more receptive to. So, at the end of the day, they just want to make sure that you have a good experience, and I've seen it firsthand, and I'm extremely happy with it. There's nothing more that I could ask for, and overall, it's very fun. I mean, just being able to go into the track, I think you have a whole new level of respect for, those types of vehicles, right? It's not just about, how much power you have or, things of that nature. It's all of it together, to see what a car is truly capable of. Because, when you're driving like the Fit, for example, on the streets, you're like, this thing is god awfully slow when you're thinking about, power, and you're merging onto the highway and
you're passing people.
You're banging gears and stuff like that. But when you have something like this, on the track, it's not all about power. It's kind of about control and understanding how to handle your car and how to push it to its limits, kind of right at that cusp of losing control. You know what I mean? Like
being in control.
Yeah, but you're in control. So when you're making
it's
turns,
almost like a Tokyo Drift slogan.
Well,
if you ain't out of control, you ain't in control.
Jesus Christ. So, I think what it was definitely different for me. When my instructor would tell me to brake, he meant almost pedal to the ground to almost where your ABS is going to kick in. You know what I mean? You're fully on the brakes, but then you're, basically the purpose of this type of driving is you want to, carry as much speed as you can over, and then
I only brake when you need to brake.
Yeah, exactly. And there were things that I was picking up on, for example, when I was braking, I was kind of slightly turning the wheel instead of braking straight.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. But these are all things that you learn as you go, and then it's kind of one of those things that the more you do it, I think obviously the better you'll get at it. But it is tons of fun. I mean, just the whole experience as a whole was definitely enjoyable, and I look forward to doing it again.
Awesome. Yeah, my instructor was great. He called me out. He identified my issue was my indecisiveness.
Yeah.
So when I would choose a braking zone, like a turn one, that right uphill,
yeah,
I would always pick one and then let off and then do it again.
Yeah.
And as soon as he called me out of it, the next session or the next lap, I was like, okay, pick a point, try it. It doesn't work, try again, try a different one. So 4 was like my spot. I think 4 was your spot too.
Yeah.
And it was perfect, and I was able to hit it every time. And once you get that rhythm, you know, then it starts becoming like second nature. And then I was by the end of the day, you know, he pushed me to group 2. So very excited for that. Yeah, like Bo was saying too, like the more you do it, the more accustomed you get to it, and then it becomes second nature. And then at that point, then you can kind of focus more on like, okay, you know, lap times, if that's what you care about, you know, trying to get, you know, that faster and passing people and, or not passing people, or, you know, whatever it is, just whatever you can to try as go as fast as you can around the track, right? That's when you can start to kind of focus towards that once you have just the basics down and you're comfortable enough with that. So awesome, cool, man. Well, I mean, that's all we got for you. Other than that, you know, we will definitely be going back for sure. And you know, huge shout out to our friends. We had, you know, Chris with the Jaguar. We had Jesse with his Cruise Diesel, which is crazy. Him and his kids were there. You know, Angel helped us film the rollers. Our cousin Vidya, you can see, he put this video together for us. Well, huge shout out again, you know, once again to, I mean, the biggest one is to Joe and Suzanne. Like I said, I can't speak, you know, any more highly of it. There was an issue that, you know, we brought up to them. It was identified and they made it right. No questions asked. Because ultimately all they want to ensure is that, you know, you enjoyed the experience. Also, thank you, you know, for them to let us use the track. We actually, you know, to do the rollers and everything like that, we had the camera car out in front of us, and then Bo and I kind of stayed at a steady, you know, 30 miles an hour and pretty much did one lap around the track to get all the rollers. So, you know, we greatly appreciate that. So, super cool, man. Awesome. Well, that's it. So we're just gonna head back and probably take a nap. So we can just get in.
Did you get that on video?
No, I didn't. I'm glad I didn't either. I'm like, wow, take that picture back.
Oh my god. That's really nice. Oh, dude, that's sick, man. Thank you, bro.